Got some more of those predictions for you, Z's bras. Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, and it is a glorious Thursday morning over here from a very early Helsinki, Finland. Nice and pitch and black outside. Also negative 50 degrees Celsius as well, so it is a fucking, it's just absolutely terrible right now, actually. It's really difficult to go outside, in fact, and in case you happen to give a fuck, well, as soon as you walk outside, it's like your nose is a little bit of an icicle, and bloody noses are quite common. Anyways, with that said, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest, because we got plenty to talk about today. Even on the short-term time frames, mostly as that's where Bitcoin has been having all of its predictions play out. Sorry, not to use a more obnoxious statement than that, but what I mean to say is that yes, our short-term targets to the downside at around 44,000 were hit yesterday. Now what? Now what, you might be asking, and does that destroy Bitcoin's Boo-law-ish case? Well, that's going to be a big focus of today, obviously. Anyways, clickbait statements aside, let's get into it over here with starting off with the Krown Chain application, which, by the way, can be found at app.krownchain.net. There's a link in the description below. It's 100% free, by the way, as well, so feel free to take advantage of it as well. Anyways, with that said, looking at Bitcoin dominance, as Bitcoin does range on the short-term time frames, we do see it come back down once again, still playing in the narrative of rotational markets, which is good for the long-term health of a general just uptrend for the greater crypto sphere. On top of that, we do see that the fear and greed index also at a 93, quite high, as you can imagine. And I actually want to take a look at the market cap right now too. Okay, so very interesting right here. What is this? 1.3.5 trillion for the global market cap, and for Bitcoin open interest, we are just below that 7.5 billion marker that we hit up a couple days ago with that breakout above 40,000 bucks. So with that in mind, I do still look at this rally as more or less in motion, and nothing really out of the ordinary is kind of stepping on to the scene just yet. Should also denote that the altcoin market cap about 500 billion, it looks like. So Bitcoin itself actually approaching that critical $1 trillion market cap. Anyways, I think that's a rather interesting thing to kind of just talk about for a second, mostly because Bitcoin typically gets compared to what? Gold, right? And gold being a rather well established store of value, if you will. Well, debate that, I suppose, but more importantly, gold has a market cap of about 8 trillion, and realistically, while gold is kind of thought of as the gold standard, I suppose, for storing your wealth, the thing with that is that it's not really used all that much, and it's actually rather difficult to use it, in fact. And when you look at Bitcoin's market cap and you look at the use case for both of them, it does kind of start to stand out that if gold has a fucking market cap of 8 trillion, it's basically doing fucking nothing. I mean, obviously it's great for your teeth. If you're a rapper, you can put it in there and some computer components as well. But it would make kind of sense that Bitcoin, does have a lot of upside here over the long term. Of course, that is the long term, not fucking today, not fucking tomorrow, not even this year probably, but maybe for the next couple decades. Anyways, with that said, looking at the open interest and comparing that with price action, of course, we do still see follow through on that. I don't see anything out of the ordinary just yet. I would be a little bit concerning if we did see open interest come down from yesterday, but we did not really. A couple hundred million right there is not anything out of the ordinary. So with that in mind, I still look at this as a breakout in motion, as long as that stays up. On top of that, the funding rate is way the fuck out of whack on FTX. Once again, we do see it on Bybit above 0.1%, and everyone else below the 0.1% threshold. Binance, albeit very, 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 very shallowly right there, but technically speaking, it is below. So again, while we did kind of look at this as a little bit concerning yesterday, the main message was, hey, unless if this really goes on for the next day or maybe even 2 days, I wouldn't necessarily consider it all that concerning. Because a lot of the time you will just get a quick spike up and then come back down. And in this case right here, we do still see a couple exchanges above that threshold. And to be fair, they are drastically above that threshold to be 100% clear. But with the way that everyone else kind of backed off, I don't think that that's actionable in and of itself. Anyways, with that in mind, anything else that we do want to check out? Okay, nothing out of the ordinary right here. Nothing out of the ordinary right here. It should also be denoted that actually the Bitcoin future futures premium over spot price action continues to hold its ground. So that also is good for further continuation on this breakout. Bitcoin dominance and chart formation over here. Actually, we should just look at that on TradingView. And I'm just looking at anything else. Market cap is, yeah, I was looking pretty fucking girthy, I would say. Anyways, let's go to actual charts over here. We're going to start off with our long-term charts once again. And yes, Bitcoin on the 2 days can be the biggest thing to be aware of the soonest. So I always like to kind of start off with these more long-term related ideas because I think most people are, tuning into content like this for these sorts of things. Like they're looking for the big bad move. And, you're not going to really get that on like an hourly in comparison to like a daily or a 2-day or a weekly, for example. And in this case right here, we are closing a 2-day little later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. If it closes anywhere above the top side Toronto band, which right now is 44,500 about, then I would be looking for further continuation coming into the next 2 days, 48 hours of price action. I believe the 3-day might be closing as well. Let's double check on this one. Yes, indeed it is. And if the 3-day closes above the top side Toronto band as well here, which is 46,325 and some odd change on stamp, by the way, definitely check your exchange for that one because it will be slightly different here and there. Then I'd be looking for pretty much immediate continuation, into the next 2-3 days, essentially 2 new all-time highs. Very likely $50,000 target is still very much viable here, and this would be in line with our measure move from this as a cup and handle formation. Also 2-spot extension right around 51,500-ish region, and realistically, I don't think that things would actually stop there, except for a short-term pullback, similar to what we saw in this region right here after hitting the $45,000 target. I would be looking for a bit of a pullback, a bit of a consolidation on the short-term timeframes, and ultimately, I'd be really looking for a move somewhere around the 618 at the very likely 618, maybe even a wake up to the 3-spot extension right here. So that'd create a range between about $58,000 and $62,000, which sounds fucking crazy to say, but I do want to go over this once again because I think that, one, we haven't done this in a while, and 2, I just want to see how this is kind of gone through over time. So if we recall back here, let's go to our BLX chart. What I did was I took a horizontal each and every time that Bitcoin created a new all-time high on the weekly. Sorry, closed on a new all-time high on the weekly. Very, very specific language right there. Closed on a new all-time high on the weekly specifically, going all the way back to 2010, by the way. So this is more than 10 years of history right here. And you do see that anytime that Bitcoin is closed on new all-time highs, well, we have typically seen an earth-shattering rally kind of transpire from that level. And you can see this first one right here, giving you about 500% over the course of this one, well, literally a week, but this was literally back when Bitcoin was trading at 35 cents. So if that makes you feel bad, get fucking ready because there's a lot more of that coming. And the next one over here, we have about a 200% gainer over the course of about, I don't know, it looks like 70 or so days. Sorry, that cannot be 7 days over here. This must have been 7 bars. Yeah, 35 days. Okay, so about a month. This one over here, about 2 months. And then this one over here, closing on new all-time highs, creating about a 3,000% rally over the course of almost 3 months. Then a bit of a reversal for the next half year to a year when Bitcoin closed on its new all-time highs right here. Boom, massive move up for another 1,300% gainer from top to bottom, wick to wick, that is. And then same thing, about a few month long, what's called consolidation sideways before further blast off, closes on new all-time highs right here. Boom, 600% move to the upside, and then we have about a year-long reversal. You might even call this a bear market, seeing as we did go down about 70% or more. But what happens after that? Bitcoin closed on new all-time highs right here, and then boom, off to the fucking races for the next, actually quite literally just straight up year, just melt up to the upside, and that was about an 1850% gainer as well. Now, of course, that leads us into the breakout of 2020, in late 2020, I should say, and so far over the past 70 days. So again, putting this into context of the past prior rallies, we've seen them usually take longer over time, with the last one being from last prior close on new all-time highs to the next all-time high, about 1 year actually, about 1 year to the week. We do see that this one thus far has been about 70 days. So 70 days is what, about 2.5 months, right? Sorry, let me just do some bad mental math. Okay, so 30, about 30, a little bit more than 2 months. Yeah, a little bit more than 2 months, I'd say. And so far it's been about 150% gainer. Now, if you put that into context of the last few last few just mega breakouts, that is actually still underrepresented, to be fair. Even on the lowest end, we did see about a 200% move to the upside, which would put Bitcoin, let's just see if this matches up with anything. Hey, is that weird? A 200% gainer right there. Is that $58,000? Wait a second, hold on. Is $58,000 exactly where the two-spot extension, or sorry, the two-spot 618 extension was right here, which I did say was rather likely algo target if Bitcoin does continue onwards and upwards? Well, Yes, and again, that was on the lower end. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Bitcoin like has to do exactly what it did in the past. Obviously not, but I do like playing around with numbers here because the history of an asset typically does rhyme with the future of that asset. And in this case, when we do kind of have a range of both the top side and the bottom side, on the lower end about 200% to the upper end of about 3,000%, I'm just curious what that would look like. You know, what sort of numbers are we kind of playing around here with, and what sort of a range can we come up with on the extremes? Again, this is extremes, extreme, extreme. There we go. Okay, so let's see. Okay, the chart doesn't go up high enough just yet, so let's just bring this down. Sorry, let's do this for reference first. Okay, so obviously 200%, as we just looked at, was about $58,000. If we were to go to 1,000%, right, which is, you know, neither on the high side or the low side for that, it's kind of like the Goldilocks in the middle. That'd be about $220,000 Bitcoin. Jesus Christ, ridiculous. Okay, so 2,000% over here would be what, about 400,000, and on the upper end we did see a move around 3,000%. Which was around $600,000. Now, the funny thing is that I would actually say that this rally that we're seeing thus far is a lot less like the one that we saw coming out of the 2017 breakout right here, and a lot more like this one that we saw back on over in 2013 to 2014 right here, where you do see that initial major massive pop, this one going for about 1,300%. If we're using just bodies, about 800%, reaccumulates and then puts in another high for another, well, I mean, if we go top to bottom on this whole thing, I'm just curious, yeah, about 5,000% right there over the course of almost a little bit less than a year, it looks like, a little bit less than a year. So just kind of playing around with that, because I do think that rally is a lot more similar to what we're looking at right now. I do think that it'd be relevant to look at what would be about an 800% gainer from where we're at right now, and that would, okay, not even be on my fucking charts. It'd certainly be somewhere around $100,000, which is rather ridiculous here. And let's just see for some clickbait title. All right, so here's my clickbait title: Bitcoin $210,000 today, no fucking cent less, and refunds will be processed by Tone Vase. Just kidding. I don't know if Tone Vase is bullish or not, but just kind of playing around with numbers right there, just kind of showing the potential long term, because I do think that some of these analyses are getting a bit stale, as well, more or less for the weekly. I mean, I don't really have much new things to add. It's fucking bullish. It's like, what more do you want? It's bullish, sir. Let's go down to the daily for a second. So the daily did close below the top side Toronto band right here. That does mean that I do think Bitcoin could come down for a little bit of a greater retracement, somewhere around about $42,000. However, I still look at this as an opportunity. That next test down to the 9 exponential moving average, wherever the fuck it comes in, which the longer that time, you know, goes sideways here on the X scale, the more and more that I'd be looking for that level to rise up, and probably somewhere around the 272, of which you can see that we've already kind of tested that region. And as we said, kind of coming into this region to begin with, this would be your consolidation region, your reaccumulation region, if this is going to remain bullish, and I still stick with that. So looking at a momentum also just for right now, still like what the DMI ADX is doing. We do see that the DMI plus backing off a little bit, but still very much dominant, and the ADX kind of backing off a bit as well. Of course, daily MACD, we do see that the histogram is actually losing its grip a little bit. That is concerning somewhat here, but will start to rise above 42,840. So as long as Bitcoin maintains that level, which has a nice $2,000 buffer about right now, I would say that is more or less good. Let me just make sure that I'm recording, that microphone's working. Okay, that's excellent. 13 minutes into this bitch, and well, we're not crossing that down anytime soon, so fair enough. Anyways, bringing this back up, and I do want to see what the 2-day is looking like. Yeah, so the 2-day, I still like this as well. 2-day MACD cross the upside alongside a closure above the topside Toronto band right here. If this signature is just continued on into tonight's closure, I'd say that's good enough for me for looking for further continuation again in the next 48 hours, extremely likely. Same thing with DMI ADX right here, and I imagine the 3-day has not changed at all, and it hasn't really changed at all, in fact. So there we go. Anyways, into the lower term timeframes over here we go. Let's start off with the 4-hour for right now, and Bitcoin based off the 21 exponential moving average. So we did say yesterday on both the morning video and then the late day video, Bitcoin likely does play at a pullback somewhere between about $44,000 and $45,000. It looks like we got that right there. I think that Bitcoin could spend a little bit more time within this region, but as long as we don't see any breakages below the actual structure, which is not the 21 right here, it's actually actually just this level right here, and I'd actually lower this to about 43,100-ish region, then I would say that that is, to be considered, at least in my opinion, at least in my experience, as first and foremost reaccumulation and likely an opportunity. So with that in mind, as long as Bitcoin, and I can say this a little more directly now, as long as Bitcoin is closing 2-hour and 4-hour dildos, of course, higher term time frame is going to have hold more weight, but I do think that a 2-hour could work in this case, above 43,100 we'll call, then I would be looking at this again as reaccumulation. If this area does break, if you do see a closure below there, that's at the point when I would be looking for that daily move down to the non-exponential moving average, which I believe was around $42,000 or $41,000, and very likely a bounce there, or wherever the 10 simple is on the daily, which should be basically the same number anyways. I mean, 10 simple versus a 9 exponential is like not that different. Like arguing fucking minutia. Anyways, let's go back down to lower term time frames, see what our momentum oscillators are looking like right now. Yeah, everything is turning down right here as far as your Stokes go. But we do have this trend line coming in, although that's not going to come into contact with the oscillator anytime soon. What I would say is 4-hour RSI, we do have a little bit of hidden bullish divergence in the process right now. But still, structure matters more than anything to me here. I'm actually going to get rid of this horizontal, not because it's not relevant, but because it's not relevant towards the time frame that I'm looking at right now. So what I will do instead of that is I will continue on down the lower term timeframes and see if we got anything else of particular interest here. And 3-hour coming down as well, $51,000, the magical number for this one. Interesting how that works out. HVP is contracted all the way, similar to 4-hour, which is in the process of contracting right now. So I would be looking for those to come down in line with the 2-hour and hourly, and those are probably starting to expand from right here. Yes, indeed they are. So that would align with likely a move, maybe not today outside of this range, but perhaps tomorrow. I want to see these all kind of line up with each other. That's when it's very, 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 very high probability of a move outside of this medium term range, you could call it. And in the medium term range, what would I define it as? I think I'd be using a 2-hour for this, just because I don't necessarily like using an hourly, and even a 2-hour is kind of like low for me. But I'd be saying that the medium term time frame range is about 48,000 to the upside versus that 43,100 level to the downside. As long as Bitcoin's also in between there, I look at this as reaccumulation on the lower term time frames. And if Bitcoin breaks out to the upside, that's when I'm looking towards 51,000 plus. And if Bitcoin breaks to the downside, that's when I'd be looking for a retest of the breakout somewhere around about $41,000. Very likely a bounce there, but does that bounce get sold into? That would be the next real question. And well, things would not look all that great if that was the case. Anyways, as it stands right now, as we are on the lower term timeframes, should also denote that hidden bullish divergence is building on just about all lower term timeframes. Here's your bi-hourly, here's your 3-hourly. Actually, 3 hours is not going to be having it unless if that is, actually that is, yeah, it could still build it a little bit there. So fair enough, is potential. And then hourly, I imagine we definitely have it right there. Not only do we have we don't even have hidden bullish divergence. We have regular bullish divergence, a lot more powerful. And that's coming off the current low to get that last move up. But if I'm looking at the short-term timeframes right now, I'd be looking for this one to come back down, grind out the $44,000 level a little bit more, and then try another move to the upside. Like I said, probably after this next daily closure, if that is going to happen, assuming that this level holds right here. That's what it all kind of hinges upon. So as long as those conditions are met, I look at this as an opportunity, and you can kind of figure out what the fuck I'm doing upon that. Although this is not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a financial derper, and you should not be listening to idiots over the internet for anything of the such. Hopefully this information is just in some way useful to you, but not a financial advice, or not to be taken as such. Yeah, there we go. All right, that should take care of all the legal stuff. I don't even know if that actually fucking works. It's kind of funny. Everyone says something like that as if it's like some sort of magical blanket statement. Who knows? Who fucking knows? Probably not. Anyways, 12-hour does look a little more droopy to me. Actually, come to think of it, we do see that 12-hour momentum oscillators will cross the downside with any sort of a closure below 45,200. So I would be looking at that as a medium-term time frame actionable signal, actually, within the context of our short-term range, meaning that if Bitcoin does fulfill that criteria and does turn things back up, I would be looking for a short-term move back onto the top side of the range, $48,000. That is, about a $3,000 move right there from signal given to next targeted region. So not bad. Of course, if it does close below, it's not a death sentence, but I don't really look at it. I don't really look at it as actionable. I don't like taking signals off this that are counter to the trend. They just don't work out all that well. 12-hour RSI is a little more problematic. We are getting that retest back down to the exponential that we spoke about yesterday. Probably be looking for a short-term bounce here, but ultimately I do think that it will come back down and base off the lower end of the bullish control zone. And that's actually the next big opportunity that I'd really be looking for. But But I suppose on that one, I should probably not say anything on that one. And what I should do is just wait until the late day wrap up video, because we'll already have clarity on that situation. And that'll make a lot more sense depending upon this next move here. Daily, what are we looking at? Daily just looks like continuation. I don't see any major issues with this. 36,500, the magical number on this one. Daily RSI looking more or less good. Again, I kind of want to see the retest back down to the exponential here, but long term, this is a very, 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 very good read going back more than a year to May 2019. Actually, more like 2 years almost at this point. And basically, the thing that I'm trying to say is that, well, I'd basically be looking at that, again, as an opportunity on the daily with any sort of a pullback here. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be calling this bearish divergence. Extremely unlikely that this works out as bearish divergence. Very rarely do you see it this egregious from point to point. But technically speaking, yes, you do have a bit of a local high right here on the daily. I just don't think that it plays out all that much based off of the lower term timeframes. On top of that, do we have anything on the 2-day? Again, fresh cross the upside right here. All higher term timeframes are bullish, hidden bullish divergence. I'd say that that's a good part of that move's already played out. Same thing on the 3-day as well. So while all of these do have a chance to continue onwards and forwards today, I want to see those closures on the higher term timeframes. That's what drives the buys towards 50,000 plus, really more like $60,000, and then $100,000 for YouTube title, of course. And in the lower term timeframes, I'd probably expect a little bit of an ebb and flow until that time. I don't think that we're going to be breaking out like during this current daily session, but perhaps next one is looking a little bit likely. And again, the keys are going to be the HVP on the lower term timeframes, all lining up with each other, and then the higher term timeframe closures above the trending levels for the 200 bands. That's essentially what I'm looking towards. Okay, 20 minutes into this bitch, and I think we got most of what I want to say on Bitcoin. I want to take a quick look at caretaker ranges over here. Caretaker range is showing 43 to the downside, good, versus 47 to the upside. Not exactly in line with what I have to say to the upside, but to the downside, definitely yes. So what does that imply? We probably even do test down around there. But again, I would be looking at that first and foremost as an opportunity on the first pass, and then maybe some issues if that does not hold up. All right, back into it over here. Let's see what else is there. Do we want to look at Mr. Butyrol? We can look at Mr. Butyrol relatively fast. Actually, let's bring it up on this chart over here first, as I want to see what it's looking like from a trending perspective. Mr. Butyrol, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There you are. Found you. 1724. What do we see on the 2-day? Okay, gonna have this. It's fucking bullish, man. Look, it's fucking bullish. All right. There's your analysis. Fucking bullish. Still looking at 2,000 plus, and very unlikely to stop at 2,000, to be honest with you as well, except for short term. A lot more likely to head up into like the 22 to 2,300-ish level, which, doesn't sound like much, but it really does matter when your overall price is about $2,000, because it's 10% move to 2,200, right? So looking at this right here, I'd be looking at the 2-day. I think that this chart gets this one incredibly, incredibly well. Again, still have the ascending triangle kind of playing out right here. We did hit the, oh wow, wait a second. We already hit $2,000. Hey, what the fuck, man? I didn't see this shit. Where's that tick? Hold on, something's wrong here. We have a bad print apparently. The daily does not show it. It shows a highs of 1857. 2-day shows a high of 1973. I don't know what this is about. TradingView fucking up. God damn it, TradingView, you silly motherfuckers, you. Fix your shit, sir. Fix your shit. But yes, ultimately, regardless of whether this is a bad tick or not, I'd be looking at this again as actionable on today's daily total closure. Basically anywhere above 1,800, I'd be targeting 2,000 plus. 2,200 actually looks a little better to me. And momentum oscillators are all looking good here. DMI plus, I do want to see it get a positive slope once again. If you see that on the next tick, that's going to be the next big signal as well. Same thing with 3-day. They're both basically in the same posturing. So if those conditions are met, extremely likely 2,000 plus. I'd say 2,200 right there. Lower term timeframes, if we want to peruse them rather abruptly here. Where are you? There we are. Let's see what the 4 hours looking like. A little bit of short-term downside probably implied. Does probably play back down to the 55, somewhere around 1650-ish region, but I'd be looking for bounces there. Do we see anything on the daily that's of a particular note? Not really, no. Not, or at least not that we already haven't spoken about. 2 days still looking good to me as well. And does this one have that 19? Yeah, it does have the 1973 tech. That is so bizarre. That is so very bizarre. I don't know what that's about. On different exchanges too, nonetheless. So yeah, short term, be looking for a move back down somewhere around 1650 to 1675 region. Be looking for bounces there. And again, based off the higher term time frame closures, very, very likely to look for continuation up to those up to those $2,000 plus levels. Again, assuming that condition is met. Very, very critical language right there. Let's go check out the Bitcoin dominance really quick. I don't really want to go through a shit ton of altcoins because that's a job for other people, not me. And what do we see right here? We do see it kind of come cratering back down. I'd be looking for it to kind of base upon the 200 simple moving average right here, but you know, is this thing done being bearish or not? Doesn't look like it. No. I do think that altcoin season, based off the monthly, does continue a little bit more here. This altcoin rotation is going to be bringing them up more and more and more versus their Bitcoin Satoshi pairing. This looks pretty damn good, not for Bitcoin, but for altcoins here. Short term, I'd be looking for another move back down, below 60% actually on this chart. I'm sure people are going to call this head and shoulders. It's not, but it is bearish. So it's like you don't really need to know the name, but at the end of the day, it doesn't look good here for the short term. I can tell you that. Anyways, is there anything else that I want to check out? What about traditional marks really quick? 13,650 for NASDAQ. So we did get the pullback that we spoke about yesterday. Is it time to be bullish once again? No, not necessarily in the short-term timeframes just yet. I'll be looking for this to come back down and probably grind out the 55 once again, somewhere around 13,550-ish region. I'll be looking for wicks down. Daily still looks fine on the whole, so I'm not bearish off this. I'd be looking at that as an opportunity. Short-term, however, a little bit of downside implied. All higher term time frames still bullish. All higher term time frames I still would. Well, here's the thing. We did hit our target at this 2618 right here. And we did say that likely a pullback from that region. I believe that that's what we're seeing right now. And I do think that it's going to take a little bit longer to kind of grind this area out, but ultimately very likely to take out this high over time. So for now, just a bit of ranging. Maybe over the next few weeks does make a run towards the $15,000 level. But for now, I'd be looking for a little bit of ranging. This target has been met. I consider that as fulfilled. Time to look towards the next thing. Same thing with SPY futures over here. Hit the 2618 target at 39.25, 26 or whatever the hell that is. And, short term, a little bit of range, sideways and down most likely. Long term, however, do I think that it reaches for, 4,000 plus? Probably yes. Very likely yes. Okay, cool. So I think I got everything out right there. I'm going to try to make a concerted effort to make these videos a little bit on the shorter side. MicroStrategy. That looks a bit toppy to me. Looks a bit toppy there. Probably does come down a little bit more. 825 region probably bounces in pie there as well. Is this the top, so to speak, just yet, though? Is it the top? Could be. We do have some pretty nasty bearish divergence, to be fair. I'd be looking for Bitcoin to kind of send off the real signal for that one. All right, speaking of Bitcoin, let's go back to it over here. Oh, that's right. Yes, I should be looking at CME futures. Yes. Okay, what do we have here? Potential bearish divergence working on the daily, but that is unconfirmed for now. It is not confirmed, to be fair. 4 hour, same shit. 4 hour can easily come down though. Oh yeah, this one can easily come down to 41,000 bucks. I'll be looking for a bounce at 41,000 bucks. See what does a weekly look like, 3 day, 2 day. All these are still good though. All these are still good. So I would be looking at that as an opportunity. Just curious what it looks like over here on this chart. Yeah, still looks very, very good. 3 days going to have a chance to close today. No, it is not today. It's actually going to be Monday next week, I believe. 2 day is closing. Yeah, Monday as well, I believe. Or sorry, Tuesday. That would be Tuesday. So we got a little bit of waiting to do. Daily, not really giving us much different than what we saw on Bitcoin spot. So if it does come down to about 41 or 42,000 bucks, I'd be looking for a bounce here. Obviously, there's a premium on this over spot price action. So that'd be more like 41-ish on spot price action, which I believe is where the 9 exponential moving average is. Yep. A little bit above 41,000 bucks. All right, fair enough. Okay, cool. So let's start to wrap this bitch up. Let me just get my chart set. All right, we'll start off with the 2 day. Bitcoin on the 2-day time frame is going to have a chance to continue the rally here with the biggest signal that could be fired off the soonest as soon as today's daily little closure, both the daily 2-day and 3-day closures, I should mention, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that would be this. If the 2-day close above the topside Toronto band here at about 44,500, or the 3-day close above the topside Toronto band, especially above 46,300, even if just one of those is met, which would obviously be the 2-day instead of the 3-day, then that would be good enough for me for looking for further continuation to the upside to those same sorts of targets as we identified earlier over the last, month and a half now, to the 2-spot extension right here in line with the pattern formation, target at about 51,500-ish region. Ultimately, I do not think that that would be the top, so to speak. I'd be looking at that as a likely pullback, kind of similar to what we're looking at right here, accumulate sideways and down, and then realistically your real targets are going to be somewhere around the 2-spot 618, and in more aggressive markets you will see a wick up to the 3-spot here, which is about $62,000, but that would be a very obvious sell in that range. So I'd be postulating a range between about $58,000 and $62,000. Again, if that condition that we just laid out on the 2-day is met, especially if the 3-day hits as well, but that's a little bit less important right now because we do see that momentum oscillators are still pointed in that general direction, and I do just favor that general direction based off of current trend. We do see that 2-day MACD having the bullish cross alongside trading above the topside Toronto band. Very, 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 very important and powerful stuff. And of course, DMI ADX still giving you that bullish signal with the DMI plus having a bit of a downward slope there. If we see this next tick to the upside, that would be a damn good signal that yes, indeed, this one is going to be gunning for 50,000 plus, probably within the next 48 hours to 48 to 72 hours is what I'm trying to say. On the lower term timeframes, however, I would say that Bitcoin is very likely to grind out this current area a little bit more, somewhere down around that $44,000 base. Can we get wicks below? Yes, and yes, indeed. But I would not consider even the short-term timeframe range broken until Bitcoin at the very least closes a 2-hour, preferably a 4-hour, but I do think that a 2-hour could work here below this level at about 43,200 or 43,100. Yeah, it's 43,100-ish region. As long as that condition is not met, I'm generally bullish on this, looking at this as an opportunity, looking at this as very likely reaccumulation based off the open interest, based off of momentum oscillators, and also based off divergence calls, of which we do see hidden bullish divergence on the 2-hour right here. Hourly has regular bullish divergence. 3 hours working on, nope, no hidden bullish divergence is there, and 4-hour is working on it as well. So with that in mind, probably a little bit of sideways, maybe a little bit of downside, but ultimately I do look at this as an opportunity. If this area does break, very, very critical right here, I would be looking for a move, ultimately very likely back down around $40,000 base, give or take, wherever the daily 10 is kind of where I'd be looking towards around that time. But for right now, it's all focused on the higher term timeframes. I'd be looking for the lower term timeframes to kind of align with each other. Until that happens, I wouldn't really pick a short term timeframe direction, and I just generally go with trend. Of course, breakout on a short term timeframe, if you insist on using them, would be above this 47,800 pivot right here. Any sort of a 2-hour or 4-hour delta closure above there, and yes, I'd be looking for that same move basically into the deep $50,000 regions with likely a stop around 51 for short term. Everything else though looking more or less fine, at least in my opinion. Again, with specific interest on that downside pivot about 43,100. So with all of that in mind, I think that this is a good place for me to kind of leave off on this video. Yeah, I think that's a good place for me to leave off on this video. I'd like to wish you the best once again. Take care, and until next time.